What if I told you there were a few simple caregiving tools that have the potential of saving you time, reduce stress, and make everyday caregiving a little easier? The problem is most family caregivers don't find out about these tools until after they have already struggled without them. Maybe a therapist recommends one. Maybe another caregiver mentioned it. Or maybe you discovered it months later and think, I wish someone had told me about this sooner. Today, I'm going to be sharing 10 caregiver essentials that, depending on your loved one's need, may make everyday caregiving safer, easier, and less stressful. For each one, we will talk about what it is, when it may be helpful, and how to decide if it is the right one for your loved one's situation. Hi, my name is Judy, and I'm a caregiver educator and a certified hospice and palliative care nurse practitioner. This video is for education and support only, and you should never replace conversation with your loved one's healthcare team. If you find this content helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps YouTube share these conversations with more caregivers who may benefit from them, and you will be notified whenever I release new videos. Now, let's start with the first caregiver essential. This is something that almost every caregiver has to think about at some point: medication. If your loved one takes several medications each day, keeping track of them can quickly become overwhelming. One of the simplest tools that may help is a pill organizer. A pill organizer allows medication to be sorted by day and, depending on the organizer, even by the time of the day they are taken. For many caregivers, it becomes much more easier to see whether medications have already been taken, which can help reduce confusion and missed doses. That doesn't mean a pill organizer is right for everyone. Some medications should remain in their original container, and some people have medication scheduled that require a different system. The goal isn't simply using a pill organizer. The goal is creating a medication routine that is safe, consistent, and works well for your loved one. If you're finding it difficult to keep medication organized, or you're worried about missed doses, that's a great opportunity to ask your pharmacist or a healthcare team what medication management system they recommend. That brings us to caregiver essential number 2, a caregiver binder. As your loved one's healthcare needs become more complex, something else often happens. Information starts coming from everywhere. You have appointment reminders, medication list, hospital paperwork, business card from specialists, lab results. And before long, it can feel like important information is scattered throughout your home. That's where a caregiver binder can be incredibly helpful. A caregiver binder is simply one place to keep the information you use most often. It might include updated medication list, medical history, healthcare providers, upcoming appointments, insurance information, advance directive, and a place to write down questions before appointments. It does not have to be perfect. It simply needs to work for you. If you ever arrive at an appointment and struggle to remember a medication name or when your loved one was last hospitalized, you are certainly not alone. Having everything in one place can make healthcare conversation much less stressful and help you feel better prepared. That brings us to the next caregiver essential, a home blood pressure monitor. Once you are keeping track of important medical information, another question many caregivers begin asking is, how do I know when something has changed? For some caregivers, one helpful tool may be a home blood pressure. Not because everyone should check blood pressure every day, but because some medical conditions require blood pressure to be monitored at home. For example, your loved one's healthcare team may recommend home blood pressure monitoring if they have high blood pressure, heart disease, kidney disease, or if they are starting or adjusting certain medication. Having those readings available can provide helpful information to your healthcare team and may reduce the need to rely on memory alone. At the same time, it is important to remember that blood pressure numbers are only one part of the picture. How your loved one feels, any new symptoms they're experiencing, and the guidance of their healthcare team are just as important as any number on the screen. If you're wondering whether checking blood pressure at home will be beneficial, ask your healthcare team if they recommend it for your loved one's specific condition. The next caregiver essential is a digital thermometer. Just as it is important to recognize changes in blood pressure when appropriate, it is also important to recognize when your loved one may be developing a fever or infection. It may seem like a basic item, but it can provide important information when your loved one isn't feeling well. A fever is often one of the body's first signs that something may be wrong. For older adults, people receiving cancer treatment, or those living with chronic illness, even a small change in temperature may be worth mentioning to the healthcare team. Having a thermometer at home allows you to provide more accurate information instead of simply saying they are feeling warm. That doesn't mean every fever is an emergency, but it does help you have a more informed conversation with your loved one's healthcare team about what they are experiencing and whether they need to be evaluated. If your loved one develops a fever, especially if it's accompanied by new confusion, difficulty breathing, severe pain, or other concerning symptoms, contact their healthcare team promptly so they can guide you on next steps. That brings us to caregiver essential number 5, a pulse oximeter. Just as a thermometer can help you recognize when your loved one may be developing a fever, a pulse oximeter may provide helpful information when you're concerned about changes in their breathing or oxygen levels. This is a small device that clips onto a finger and measures oxygen saturation and heart rate. For some people, it can be a very helpful tool. Your healthcare team may recommend one if your loved one has a chronic lung condition, certain heart condition, uses oxygen at home, or is recovering from a respiratory illness. But I also want to mention something that's very important. A pulse oximeter is meant to provide information. It is not meant to replace your observation as a caregiver. If your loved one is struggling to breathe, becoming increasingly sleepy, confused, or simply doesn't seem like themselves, those changes matter, even if the number on the pulse oximeter looks reassuring. The opposite can also be true. A number that seems lower than the expected does not always mean there's an emergency. The most important step is knowing when to contact your loved one's healthcare team and understand what oxygen level is appropriate for your loved one's specific condition. If you're wondering whether a pulse ox would be helpful, ask your loved one's healthcare team if they recommend one and whether they would want you to monitor oxygen level at home. The next caregiver essential is a shower chair. So far, we have talked about tools that can help you monitor your loved one's health. But as caregiving continues, another priority often becomes helping your loved one stay safe during everyday activities. One of those activities is bathing. Bathing can become difficult when someone is weak, tires easily, has poor balance, or feels unsteady standing for long periods of time. A shower chair allows your loved one to sit while bathing, which may help reduce the risk for fall and conserve energy. It can also make bathing feel less stressful for both of you. Some caregivers hesitate because they think using a shower chair means their loved one is getting worse. But needing a little extra support doesn't mean someone has lost their independence. In many cases, the right equipment actually help people remain independent longer by allowing them to do more safely. If you have started noticing that your loved one is holding onto the wall, becoming tired during a shower, or you're worried about falls, it's a good time to ask your loved one's healthcare team whether a shower chair or other bathroom safety equipment will be appropriate. And that brings us to caregiver essential number 7, a walker or a rollator. Bathroom safety is just one part of helping your loved ones stay safe and independent. As mobility changes, many caregivers also begin asking whether it is time for additional support when walking. Although people sometimes uses those names interchangeably, they aren't exactly the same. A walker usually has 4 legs and provides maximum stability. A rollator has wheels, handbrakes, and a built-in seat, making it easier for some people to move longer distance and rest when needed. The right choice depends on your loved one's strength, balance, endurance, and overall mobility. That's why I always encourage families not to choose one based only on what they have seen someone else use. A physical therapist or your loved one's healthcare team can help determine which option is the safest and most appropriate. Just as importantly, using a walker or a relator isn't a sign of failure. It is a tool that may help reduce the risk of falls, improve confidence while walking, and help someone stay active and independent. If you have noticed your loved ones reaching for furniture when they walk, losing their balance, or becoming more unsteady, don't wait until a fall happens. Talk with your healthcare team about whether an evaluation for a walker or a rollator would be helpful. And now we move on to the next caregiver essential, which is a reacher or a grabber tool. Even with the right walking support, everyday tasks like picking something up from the floor or reaching for an item on a high shelf can still increase the risk of a fall. Sometimes it is the smallest tool that makes the biggest difference. One simple item that many caregivers overlook is a reacher or a grabber tool. It may not seem like much, but it can help someone safely pick up items from the floor or reach objects on a high shelf without bending, stretching, or losing their balance. For someone recovering from surgery, living with arthritis, experiencing weakness, or becoming unsteady on their feet, that simple task of picking up a dropped remote, reaching for a box in the kitchen, can become surprisingly difficult. Instead of risking a fall, a reacher allows them to stay safer while doing everyday tasks. As caregivers, we often jump in to help with everything. But whenever it's safe to do so, giving our loved one the right to remain independent can be just as valuable as doing the tasks for them. If you have noticed your loved one struggling to bend down or reaching for objects in the way that makes you nervous, ask your loved one's pet care team or an occupation therapist if a reacher or other adaptive equipment will be helpful. That brings us to caregiver essential number 9, a bedside organizer. Helping your loved one stay independent isn't just about mobility. Sometimes it's about making the things they use every day easier to reach. Another simple tool that can make everyday caregiving easier is a bedside organizer. This is not a medical device, but sometimes the most practical solution have nothing to do with medicine. Think about all the things your loved one reaches for throughout the day: their glasses, their phone, the television remote, a tissue, their notebook, their medication, or a bottle of water. When those items are always within reach, your loved one may be able to do a little more for themselves without constantly calling for help. It also saves you from making repeated trips back and forth throughout the day looking for items that seems to disappear just when you need them. Again, this isn't about convenience alone. It's about creating an environment that supports both safety and independence while making caregiving just a little less stressful. If you're constantly hearing, can you hand me? Or find yourself searching for the same items over and over again, a bedside organizer may be one of those small changes that can make a surprisingly big difference. That brings us to the 10th and final caregiver essentials. We have spent this conversation talking about tools that can make everyday caregiving a little easier. But there's one caregiver essential that's even more important than any product we have discussed today. It's having trusted guidance throughout your caregiving journey. Because the truth is, caregiving doesn't stay the same. Your loved one's needs will change. New questions will come up. New decisions will need to be made. And sometimes, just when you feel like you have figured one thing out, everything changes again. I have learned that as a certified hospice and palliative care nurse practitioner, and I'm living it every day as I care for my own mom. That's why I created Care Navigated, not just to answer one question, but to help caregivers navigate the entire caregiving journey. Maybe today you came here because you wanted to learn about caregiver essentials. Tomorrow, you may be searching for answers about a new diagnosis, trying to understand palliative care, wondering whether hospice is the right time, or simply looking for guidance as your loved one's needs continue to change. Those are all different questions, but they are all part of the same caregiving journey. That's why Care Navigated is more than one video. It is a growing library of conversation designed to meet caregivers where they are. Here on YouTube, you will find conversations that help you understand serious illness, prepare for difficult decisions, navigate the healthcare system, improve communication with your loved one's healthcare team, and care for yourself along the way. If you are looking for something you can reference anytime, my quick guide focuses on one caregiver question at a time and gives you practical, easy to follow guidance you can come back to whenever you need it. If you are just beginning this journey, my free caregiver decision guide is a wonderful place to start. It will help you ask better questions, prepare for healthcare conversation, and feel more confident as you navigate decisions. And if you're facing more complex situation and want to go deeper, the Caregiver Decision Toolkit builds on those conversations with worksheets, reflection exercise, communication tools, and practical resources designed to help you navigate difficult decisions with greater clarity and confidence. Because my hope has never been to simply give you information. My hope is to give you the understanding and support you need throughout your caregiving journey. So whenever a new question comes up, whenever a new challenges arise, or whenever you simply need someone to help you make sense of what's happening, I hope you will know that Care Navigated is here for you. Now that we have talked about the 10 different caregiver essentials, how do you decide which one, if any, are actually right for your loved one? The answer isn't buying everything we discussed today. It's taking a step back and looking at what your loved one needs right now. Maybe medication are becoming harder to manage. Maybe they are becoming more unsteady when they walk. Maybe bathing is becoming more difficult. Or maybe you're noticing the same small frustration coming up day after day. Those everyday challenges are often your biggest clue about where additional support may be helpful. Once you have identified the challenge, the next step is asking what would actually help. Would a pill organizer make medication easier to manage? Would a shower chair make bathing safer? Would a walker help your loved one move around with more confidence? Or is the best next step simply talking with your healthcare team before making any changes? The goal isn't to have every caregiver essential. The goal is to choose the right support for the right situation. And remember, as your loved one's needs change, the tool that are helpful today may be different from the tool they will need 6 months from now. That's why it's important to keep reassessing, keep asking questions, and keep making thoughtful decisions as your caregiving journey evolves. Because caregiving isn't about having every answer. It's about knowing your loved one's needs today and taking the next thoughtful step. If you think any of these caregiver essentials might help your loved one, I've included links to all of them in the description below so you can learn more and decide what's right for your needs. You will also find my Care Navigator resources, including my free Caregiver Decision Guides, quick guides, and Caregiver Decision Toolkit, all designed to help you navigate caregiving with greater clarity and confidence. Some of the links in the description are affiliate links, which means I earn a small commission if you choose to make a purchase at no additional cost to you. If you choose to use those links, thank you. Your support helps me continue creating free caregiver education and practical resources for families navigating serious illness. Remember, you don't have to navigate serious illness alone. Care Navigated is here to help caregivers understand serious illness so they can navigate difficult decisions with clarity, confidence, and compassion. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Until next time, take good care of yourself and the person you love.